So today is about personal history meeting family history. And as I was doing this, the word story just kept popping out at me. It's in the word history, right? And so be thinking of stories right now. Stories about your life. Stories about your mom and dad, your grandma and grandpa, your kids' lives. Be thinking about the stories because this is kind of what it's all about. And we'll be talking about how to use technology / social media to share our stories. So we're going to use it for good. Living history, I think, is also part of your personal history. Again, the story is there. Every day we do different things. Every day you might think it's mundane, you might think it's not important, but years down the road it is going to be important. And the thing that I want you to be thinking of too is the things that you're learning, because the you that was alive in your living history and your personal history a year ago is different than the you that is alive today, right? And every day that we have is precious, and we need to be looking at our history, our living history, as something that hopefully will benefit our posterity, right? So we're going to learn about different ideas. Today's an idea day as well, an idea day to share with your family history, your personal history, your living history, and also ideas about family tree gatherings and family reunions. That is something I'm so excited about because this is, this summer we're having our family reunion and I've got it on my brain big time. So we're going to talk about some fun ideas. So again, I encourage you to write your questions down. I do get a lot of emails during the week from you, and I thank you for that. That's awesome. And I'm able to help you with things, so thank you for emailing questions. Also, today I don't have to run off to the airport, so I can stay a little bit after and I can talk to you too. So sorry, last week I had to zip down to Arizona. Okay, so let's talk about, we're going to first focus on personal history, okay, and our living history. Each day is our living history, and history as it happens. So when you think of it that way, suddenly you think, wow, what's going to happen today? The stories that we're telling every day through our experiences are things that will be cherished from our posterity. And not even our posterity, perhaps people that we've never even met. They'll be able to learn about the things that we are learning in our lives as we share our stories. So what are some things during your personal history? You could be taking notes or journaling about milestones, about your daily experiences, simple stories, and principles learned. So if you're thinking, I don't know what to write in my personal history, that's an excuse, that's a cop-out, stop doing that. You have something important to record. Your stories that you're learning, the principles that you're learning, the lessons that you're learning, things like that. And it happens on a daily basis. So just be thinking about what's going on in your life right now, what you could share about, what kind of stories you could share. I love in D&C 84:5 where it says, treasure up the words of life. That word treasure is exactly how we need to be looking at our personal and our living history, because it really is a treasure. We are alive and we get to be instruments in God's hands, and we get to influence others, and we have families that love us, and we have maybe families that are mad at us. Whatever it is, it's still a privilege. We have bodies, we're on the earth, and we are blessed. So think of that right there. Treasure up the words of life, of your life. Okay, so the purpose of all of us in mortality is to learn through our experiences. Stories infuse our life with meaning. So be looking at the stories in your life, okay? We are here to learn from our experiences. For the experiences to be meaningful to you, it must be verbalized or written. Until you speak or write about it, it doesn't have power in your life. Isn't that interesting? That was from Elder Zwick that I read when he was talking. He and his wife did a little article about personal history and family history, and I just thought that was so interesting. It's up to us to verbalize it or write it down, or else it's going to get lost. It'll be just a faded memory that we talked about before. So be thinking of what you can share, and even if you think, it's not important. It's not going to affect anybody. If it comes to your mind while you're praying about what to write, I promise you, somebody's going to need it along the way. I look at our scriptures, and I mean, the Book of Mormon is a history. It's a personal history in some ways as well. And when Christ appeared to the Nephites and they were a little bit reprimanded because they hadn't written down things, I know we always look at that like, oh, that's for our own personal journal writing and stuff, and sometimes we feel reprimanded. But don't think of it as a reprimand. Think of it as a loving way to remind you that your stories are important and that you're important. So, personal history meeting family history. We're going to talk about ideas now about what to do with your personal history. Okay. Think of your life experiences, okay? I just went last week when I zipped off to the airport. I flew down to Arizona to be with my family. My sister has thyroid cancer, and she had just had her surgery, and she was still pretty down, but it was her birthday on Friday. And so I zipped down there and got to celebrate with her. But while I was down there, not only did we have, my family, we are loud, we laugh, we talk way too much. And by the end, when I come home, I have no voice, I'm exhausted, but I have the best time ever. I love it. Well, while I was down there, amongst all the fun that I do with my sisters and my mom and everything, my dad and I had a chance to sit and talk. And my dad is a very, he is probably pretty quiet compared to my mom and my sisters and my brothers and everybody. He was always the one that kind of, he would talk and laugh and everything, and he's a great guy, but he doesn't just sit and chat a lot like my mom and I do. But he was really chatty this time, and so I took that. I was so excited. I started asking him questions, asking about this. Come to find out, he gave me this, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about it, but he had written, well, he didn't think it was personal history, but as we started talking, we both realized it's his personal history. They're just little stories that he wrote about memories that he had. This one that he gave me was, it was entitled My Heroes, and it talks about different things in his life that happened with certain people and how they became his hero. And I'll share a little bit more about it, but his life experiences that he sat down and shared with me are priceless. I'm so grateful that I got that time with him, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. So be thinking of your life experiences and how you can share them. Our experiences make us who we are, but until we tell about ourselves and share our stories, others may know little about us. And like I said, my dad, I feel like I thought I knew a lot about him, but as he shared some of these stories, I was like, oh, I never knew that's how that came to be. So I loved to hear these stories, and I was so thankful that he shared it with me. So that takes me into ancestral stories. Okay, so my dad, I'm going to show you this. All he did, he's hilarious because, okay, my mom makes these books, okay? She is very creative. She, sends them to Shutterfly, and they're all artistic and everything. That's who my mom is. My dad, no. His talent is words. And so what he did was he typed out, and this is just my dad. This is how it is. It's just a typed out story, and he put little pictures in of family history. And this is what he gave me, and it is priceless to me. This is about heroes, and this, even though it's his personal history and the way that his grandpa, my great-grandpa, affected him in his life, it turns into family history as well. So as he was reading this to me and he was sharing experiences, I was like, Dad, you're doing family history, you're doing personal history, this is awesome. And he hadn't even thought about that's what he was doing. So you probably are already doing this and you don't even realize that you're doing it. But I want to share this little bit about that I had never heard. And when he told me about it, I was just sitting there going, that's why? Okay, first of all, let me tell you what it was about. Number one, I grew up, my dad loved the movie Pollyanna. That was one of our, we didn't have a lot of movies or shows that we could watch on Sundays, but he had remember the VCR, the old-time VCRs? He had a video of Pollyanna, and that was one that we could watch on Sunday, so we were, of course, so excited that we could. But he always, whenever we watched it, he always talked about the glad game. Have you guys ever watched Pollyanna? And it's about a little girl who's an orphan, and she basically changes the whole town, including her hard-hearted Aunt Polly. Her heart changes all because she looks at the positive. So that was my background, okay? We always watched it when my kids were younger. I got the DVD of it because I loved it too, and I let them watch it on Sunday as well. But then he shared this story, and I learned soon why Pollyanna was one of his favorites. And I'll paraphrase it because it's kind of long. But he talks about how hard it was on his mission. Now, this seemed very pertinent to me right now. Our oldest daughter just put her papers in on Tuesday night, push the button, press it again, and so she'll be going. So I'm kind of thinking about, okay, missions are hard. I went on a mission. I know they're really hard. So I'm trying to think of how, have I prepared her? Is she going to, know how hard it is, all these things. And my dad is fluent in Spanish. He and my mom went on missions when they were younger in Guatemala, and that's what I grew up hearing is them speaking Spanish when they didn't want us to understand. Later on, they were called as mission presidents to Spain, both of them, great Spanish. From that time on, for 15 years, they were serving, and it was usually, all except for their last year, it was some Spanish speaking. So in my mind, my dad was fluent in Spanish, and he had never had a problem. Well, in this personal history, he talks about how difficult it was to learn Spanish. So number one, I was like, wait, what? You had a hard time doing that? Then it goes on, and he says there was one day where he couldn't understand what people were saying. All these kids ran around him, and they were taunting and teasing him, saying, you can't speak Spanish, you can't speak Spanish. He was feeling, he had fleas, it was hot, dogs were, just all these stories. And he said finally he had it up to here. And he said he raced into his apartment, he started throwing things in his bag, and his companion's like, what are you doing? He said, I've had it. I can't understand what people are saying. I want to testify of Jesus Christ, and I can't. I've got fleas all over me. And he just said, I'm done. And he just started packing things in. And his companion said, well, it's P-Day, and we can't, you can't go right now. You have to go tomorrow. And so my dad stopped me. He was like, oh yeah, it's P-Day. Back in those days, they were able to go watch a movie on P-Day, which I know. I mean, that tells you the kind of world it was. This was back in 1961, I think he says. And he said that they were all excited because Hercules, I can't find it now, but it was Hercules something was supposed to be playing, and he was so excited. Well, when they got there, it was a Walt Disney movie called Pollyanna, and they all went, great, okay. Well, they went in and watched it, and he said that watching that little orphan, let me see. Okay, he says, let's see, Pollyanna was an orphan who went to live with her rich, powerful, and controlling Aunt Pollyanna. Pollyanna's parents, or Polly Harrington. Pollyanna's parents had been Christian missionaries in the British West Indies, and her father was her hero. When she began quoting him, quote, Father used to say, Aunt Polly couldn't stand it and forbade her from telling her what her father used to say. However, her sunshine and roses attitude could not be suppressed. She talked to everybody about how her father had taught her to meet life's disappointments with the glad game. She had once asked for a doll to be sent in the missionary barrels. When the barrels arrived, she got a pair of crutches instead of the little doll she had her heart set on. Applying this principle of gratitude, she counted her blessings by playing the glad game. She was glad she didn't have to use them. Her father also taught her that when you look for the bad in mankind expecting to find it, you surely will. My life has never been the same. I mean, I just love reading that. He says, looking back, I see the Lord's hand in providing me with another hero. Pollyanna's his hero. I didn't know that. That's why we always watched it. In this case, a little heroine, Pollyanna, that taught me a powerful lesson in life about attitude. Just when a critical, negative, pessimistic, bad attitude missionary needed it. Okay, I can't read anymore because I'll just cry. But I mean, do you see how just sitting down with my dad, all of a sudden I got a glimpse into his life? I had no idea that he struggled. He didn't tell us those stories. He always told us all these other fun, exciting ones about the machete and, coming towards him and stuff. But it was after he had this great change of heart by just a little Pollyanna girl. I mean, that was it. So that story right there impacted me. Then I came home. So this was, I got home on Monday, and I was talking to Jaya, and she was kind of getting into the, I can't do this. And I said, guess what Grandpa said? And then I was able to share that story, and she said, no way, that's why we watched Pollyanna. And so I was able to give that to her as well, and she kind of bucked up, and Tuesday night she went and met with President McGinn. He had her, for this interview, he had her teach a lesson, and she was kind of shaking in her boots. This was a little bit scary for her, but she did it, and I was really proud of her. And that little story that my dad shared with me just a few days ago, I was able to share with her, and I have a feeling that I'll be sharing with her a little bit more. So in this personal history, he talked about different heroes. He talked about his great-grandpa, or his grandpa, who is my great-grandpa. And that's my dad right there, and this is his grandpa, or my great-grandpa, Gonzalez. And this is where the Mexican blood comes in. This is him right here. And believe it or not, I am part Mexican, and I'm a little bit spicy in that way. But as I hear the stories of my great-grandpa Gonzalez, in Spanish, they call it, and I don't speak Spanish, I went to Japan, but it's called animo. And that's just this fire in your belly about whatever you're doing. And I always heard about great-grandpa Gonzalez's animo, and how he would get fired up when he would testify about the gospel. Some of you might have noticed that I get fired up as well when I start getting excited about these things. I get it from my great-grandpa Gonzalez, and I didn't know that until I started reading how he was and what he was. He went through a lot of different things on his mission as well, but as he shared the gospel, he would get fired up, and he just wanted to share the gospel with people in Mexico. This is him. Isn't he cute? He's my great-grandpa Gonzalez. And as we were looking at this is one of the pictures in the personal history that my dad gave me. We looked at it, and all of a sudden we went, oh my goodness, he looks like my sister's son, Adam. And I've always thought he looked just like his dad, but when we all saw this, we were like, whoa, he has some Grandpa Gonzalez in him. It was really interesting, just by a picture and just by a little bit of these ancestral stories. So be thinking of your life experiences. It kind of blends into your ancestral stories because of the way that you're impacted by them. But again, if they're not telling their stories and you're not telling your stories, we won't have those. The next thing that I want you to be thinking about in your personal history are your sacred experiences. This is something that when we talk a little bit later about how to share online, you probably won't be sharing your sacred experiences online unless you feel really prompted to. But this is something, another thing in my dad's personal history, this little story that he gave me. One of his heroes is President Hinckley, and I grew up hearing this story about back in the day when they went to the LTM, Language Training Mission Center, and they got their interviews and stuff. It was usually by a general authority, and at the time it was President Hinckley that actually interviewed him, and he had just a really profound spiritual experience with President Hinckley as a young missionary before he was going to go serve in Central America. Well, years down the road, okay, and he always told us that the spirit that Elder Hinckley at the time had was just really impactful on him, and he always wanted to, he looked him straight in the eye, and he said, Elder Mask, are you worthy to serve a mission? And my dad just said, when you have a general authority looking in your eyes and asking you, he said, I was thankful that I could say, yes, I am. He said, then go and testify of Jesus Christ. So that impacted him before the fleas, before, all of the other stuff, and he was one of his heroes that he thought of. Years down the road later, my dad got a phone call, and it was President Hinckley on the phone. This was in 2003, and President Hinckley was the prophet at this time, and asked my dad how he felt about Jesus Christ, and he said, and in the story he says, I was able to tell the mouthpiece of the Lord how I felt about Jesus Christ, and then proceeded to say how he felt about that. And at that time, President Hinckley said, will you take that love of Jesus Christ and testify around the world as a general authority? And he called him as a general authority. So some of these things he didn't tell us, the feelings that he had and the way that it all went down. It was so neat to be able to read it. And later on, we found out that after he hung up the phone from President Hinckley, he just sunk down to the floor and just started bawling. And he said, this is, I mean, talk about a powerful, I'm just a lot of words and a lot of feelings and stuff. But that sacred experience that he shared was something that he wrote, and now we have. There's some more other things that are quite they were impactful to me, but I want to read this to my kids because they were so young when he was called that they kind of grew up thinking that Grandpa was always at General Conference and Grandpa was always gone, and they didn't know some of the things that happened before. And so it's really great to be able to look at this and say those experiences that he had will impact not only his daughter, but his grandchildren and their grandchildren. And it will it's kind of this, well, it's our posterity, right? And this is what, family is what it's all about. So think of your sacred experiences. If you die with them, who's that going to help? The reason we have sacred experiences is to get closer to our Savior, to know who we are, what we're supposed to be doing, and to be able to feel the Spirit. And if you can share that with your family members, that can help them as well. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the things what to write. We talked about it in general terms, but let's talk about what to write, because like we said, you have daily experiences that you get to share. So if you are on Instagram, there is something called, and it's, remember, if you're on Instagram, it's the @ sign, and it's called Write Your Story 365. And this will give you a weekly prompt of little things to think about or to write about. And the way she's got this working is if you do it every week for 1 year, you'll have your personal history written by the time the year ends. So that's pretty cool. Now, I do want to tell you something about Instagram, because the way that she has this working, first of all, let me show you this last one. It says, what was technology like? That's the prompt. That's really easy, isn't it? And so she has some old pictures and stuff. When my mom gave us this, now remember, you do not have to do a book like this. This is just how my mom is, and this is what she loves to do. This is her part 1 personal history from years 1941 to 1963. And in this book, she has pictures and she has stories about what it was like. And it was basically this time era right here where these photos are. Talking about how when you had to make a phone call, you had to you picked up the phone and you would talk to the operator who you knew their name, and you would say the number like 17 Cherry Tree Lane or something like that, and that was how you connected with the operator would connect you. My kids read that and they're like, what? You had to talk to, wait, huh? It was connected? I mean, it's just so different from what it is now. Believe it or not, the things that we are doing now that seem so normal to us will be old-fashioned when our children and our grandchildren are alive. So I think it's kind of interesting. Don't discount what we're doing right now. I know that you think, oh, we've got all this great technology. iPads, iPhones, all of this. At some point in 20 years, it's going to be really dated, and it's going to be kind of cool to say, oh yeah, I used to have an iPhone 6. An iPhone 6? We're on 106 now. I mean, I don't know what it's going to be like, but just be documenting some of these things that are really part of your life that will be interesting. So I do want to talk to you a little bit about the Write Your History 365. If you're on Instagram and you participate in this and you share it on Instagram, then that is, unless you're private, that goes to everybody. I mean, that goes to, people can see it, right? I've had some people think, or some people have said, well, what if I don't want to share that publicly? And you might feel that way. You could do it the good old pen and paper way, and you could take these prompts still, and you could still write it down. You could type it. I'm going to show you a couple apps where you could still use the technology, and it's really helpful, but you could still take these prompts and you could add them the whole year, 52 weeks, and have your personal history written down too. So just because it's on Instagram, don't let that scare you away and say, I don't want to have it out there. It's just the way where you will find those prompts, those weekly prompts. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this and you can write it down. It's actually it's in your handout, but it's called Write Your Story 365. And this is how you'll be able to write your personal history. Okay, do you guys have that? Okay, now, speaking of Instagram, I'm a visual person, and I really like to have pictures go along with my living history. And this past weekend, when I went down to my sister's, we did a little birthday surprise for her. She had no idea. Everybody else, all the other sisters and my mom and her husband, everyone knew that I was coming down, except for her. My whole family lives there. I'm the only one that's not there. So we got a video of me surprising her, which I won't even put you through that because we all laugh, and we all have the same laugh, and it's a cackle, and it's loud, and it is just like a minute of it's just laughing and laughing and laughing, and then crying, of course. We cried too. But I wanted to document my living history on Instagram, and so we did the video of the surprise. We did a little birthday surprise party, and then I was able to share some thoughts and feelings while I was doing that. So on Instagram, some of the things I feel comfortable sharing my living history, but if I didn't feel comfortable sharing some other really tender mercies happened and stuff that I didn't feel like I needed to share on Instagram. So I still want to be able to document things like that with a photo and a story. That's just how I like to work. So there are two apps that I have found that are my favorites to do this. The first one is called Collect, and this is more of a calendar type of thing. You can go every day, and it's actually a calendar base. I'll show you in just a minute what it looks like. But, and just like it says, actually it doesn't say it, it says it on my blog because I found out later. Collect app is this first one that I'm going to talk about, and then Day One is the second one. Both of those are only for iPhone, iPad, so I'm sorry. But Anna did find one. She did a little bit of research, and she found one that is a journaling app as well for an Android, and it is called,
I got it. I just loaded it down this morning, but mine's an Android, and I got Day One something.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. Good. Okay, then maybe what I was looking at was outdated. So she did get Day One. See if there's another one that you wanted to, if you can.
Well, I put in Day One, and I got a day journal. Is that the same thing? Day One journal.
I don't know. Does it look the same? Does it have the little same, you can tell if it's the same app if it has the same little icon.
No, mine has a book.
Okay, so it might be, but it might be something that's similar. And so that's what I want you, when you're on Android, look for ones that is like, it's just, basically it's a digital journal. And if you can add photo and text, that's what you want. You want something that you'll be able to do. Now, I'm going to open up now and show you what Collect app is like. And it's that little C down here. I've got this right here. It just says Collect, and then this one is Day One. And when you tap Collect, this is what it looks like. You see the calendar of what's going on right now. And then this is today, and it's kind of highlighted. If I wanted to add something right there, I would just tap on my 12. I could add the photo from my photo library, Dropbox, or I could take a photo. So if right now I wanted to take a photo of you guys, and I wanted to document this. Don't you guys love it when I do this? I love to do it. I would take the picture and I would say I would use photo. Then I could crop it so I could bring it down here and make it so we don't see all those. Oh, let me see everybody. Look at you smiling people. Okay, I would say done on the top right. And then this is where I would be able to add a title. There are 115 characters, so you're not going to get too wordy. This is just something that, if your grandchild or if your child or somebody's doing something, we're at a soccer game or something like that. This is a great way to document things. It gives you the date. I always just keep it in my album. You could go in and, I'm not an organized person. That's probably why I just keep it in my album. But if you're very organized like Tammy,
her son's just is moving.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Tammy would probably name her specifically because she's just like that and she's very organized. Then if you want to tag anything, like if it's all about my daughter and I want to keep all of these together, that's where you tag it. And then here's the notes, and this is where I would be able to say, today I taught these wonderful sisters week 9. And then I would say save at the top right. I would go back out this little, so right here is the picture, here's the date, this little arrow, remember you go back to it, and now it's in my calendar. And this is a good way of just doing little snippets. It's not my preferred one, I like day 1 better because, and I'll show you why, but this is a really fun one just to take things, to remind you about what happened. And actually it has come in handy when I have to remember, wait, what happened that one day? When did I take Soul to the doctor or something? And I've got it, in fact that was right here on Tuesday. I was with the doctor all day. So my title was Doctor. All of us were something or other. So when I have to remember when all this stuff happened and everything, I'll remember, go back and say, oh, that was March 10th. Okay, so it's just a little bit of a helpful thing, and it's super easy, super fast. So that's collect. Day 1 is my preferred one. I love this one because of all the different things that you can do. This one is available, did anyone buy this one recently? How much was it? Okay, that's pretty pricey. I mean, that's like probably the priciest app I've purchased.
What I like is you can also buy it for your computer.
Exactly. If you are on a Mac, you can also use it as a desktop, and it is really cool. There are so many functions on this that it really is a very complex journal, but it can be used simply as well. It can be published as well, and that's what I like too. So I want to show you this one a little bit more in depth. So when I go into day 1, this is what the home page will look like, okay? You can take a picture, so I could take a picture of you guys again, or you can add whatever you want. You don't have to do photos and text. You can do either or, but I like to add them together because I'm a visual person. I like to add pictures to my stories and vice versa. So timeline right here is where I would tap on this, and this is where I go in, and it has the date, it has what I wrote about, and the picture that I have with it. So you just kind of scroll down, you can see all the different ones. If I just want to look at the photos that I did, this is how it says the date of when it was. So again, just another way to find photos that if you want to remember, okay, this is so sad. The day our little frog died, this is how I remember. He hopped all the way to the front door and was just sitting there, and nobody was there at home, and I had to throw him away, and so I took a picture of it and documented it, and then I had to share it with my family when they came home. It was really sad. but I didn't want to have the frog sitting there all day, because everyone was at school. So, but then I can look back and go, oh yeah, that was on February 23rd when Froggy died. I mean, little things like that. Okay, I know. and the fact that I'm laughing right now, my kids would be very upset. So I'm sorry, I'm not laughing. Now you have tags right here where, like, again, I said, and I'm not very good at this and I need to be better, but like I did one for family history that was yesterday when I was really getting into my dad's history and stuff. Share goodness is another one that I've used. It's just another way. Remember, hashtags are the way that you categorize things. So the more, if you're doing this for a full year and you want to categorize things like all the funny pictures that you take of Rana while she's teaching. Thank you, Anna. Then you can categorize that, or all of one child, or family gatherings, or things like that.
So
you
that's
can
what tags are.
Exactly. So when and I'll show you what you'll do right here. So you'll add the tags as you're typing your information. Okay. Calendar right here is a lot like the Collect app, except for that you don't see the photos on there. These are the days where I've actually put something in. The 3rd and the 4th, I didn't put anything in, and that's okay. You don't have to do this a daily thing. Like we said, it could just be milestones. It could be sacred experiences. It could be whatever you feel like you want to do. One thing that I really like that Anna was talking about is a gratitude journal. And if this is something that you think, oh, I don't really want to get into my daily experiences. If you start a gratitude journal, it turns into your daily experiences, because every day you're looking for something that you're grateful for. And that can be a really powerful thing. By the end of the year, you would have a whole book full of things that you're grateful for, and you could give that to your kids, or you could just print it out and keep it for yourself to remind you in the hard times there are things to be grateful for. So this is something that is just to be able to say, oh, I missed that day, or oh, I remember what happened on that day. You can go back and you can still add to it. Published, down here, I'm going to tell you a little bit about published. With day one, the thing that I like about it is not only can you publish a book later, and I'll show you that in a minute, but when you publish it, you have your own little website that it goes to, and then you can pick and choose the entries that you can share on Facebook or Twitter or Foursquare. Foursquare is kind of, I'm not on that one, it's a little bit different, but those are the ones that they're connected to. So if you do something that you think might be beneficial for those that follow you on Facebook, you could actually share it. But it's also housed on your own private little website that talks about it every day. So you could share that link with friends and family and things like that. So it's kind of cool. If you want to go back to one, you would star it right there. And then the years, I've only been doing it for 1 year, but it'll tell you. I mean, I've got a friend that's been doing it for, I think it's been 3 years when it first came out. She's been doing it like every day for 3 years. And wow, what a great personal history she has. So let's look at the settings, and I'm going to show you some different things in here. Okay, this day one right here, when I'm not signed in, that's where you're going to publish, or that's where it recognizes that you're publishing, and it syncs you with your new little website. So you'll just add your email. I think all it asks you is like your email, a login, password, things like that. And then if you want to put your picture or something. If you want this to be really personal and no one ever see it, and this is just your heart of hearts, and it's really personal, you can actually set it so that you have a passcode touch ID so that only you can get in and share it. You know those little old, I don't want to say old-fashioned because they were pretty cool back in my day, but the little lock and key diaries that only, or now the kids have password ones where it like recognizes your voice. It's kind of like that, but it's on your phone. This is what I love, is it reminds me every day. And you can go in, I'm going to tap reminder, and I can say at 6:45, I usually, and this is just for me because usually dinner's already done, things are happening, things are kind of slowing down. If I have to be someplace at 7 o'clock, I still have time to do it. It just reminds me every day to add something to it. And then you can say weekly, monthly, you can say the time, and then you get a little reminder. Okay, so I love that. For me, I need reminders all the time. Now, this right here to me is worth the $5. It's amazing. Export to PDF. When you tap on that, you can go into a date range. So let's say I just wanted from March 1st, 2015 to today. I think that's where I did. Yeah. Okay. So I've got that. That's the date range that I have. Then I can say create new PDF. It's only 10 entries, but create new PDF, and now watch what it does. Right here is my 10 entries in a PDF, boom, like that. When I tap on the arrow right here, this is what it looks like. And it's basically an ebook. You could send that to somebody to say, this is what happened during our month. And as you scroll through, it has the date. Let me make this a little bigger so you can see. Oops. The date right there at the time that I did, and then just what I said right there. Just something, a little picture and a little story, and this goes to each day of what I've included. And suddenly that turns into a book. You can take that PDF file, and there's a place called blurb.com that makes books like this, that it would just be very plain. It wouldn't be anything fancy, because I know a lot of people are like, I can't do that fancy stuff. I just want a book. Blurb.com is awesome. Very reasonably priced. And you could be doing small books, month by month. You could be doing it for a whole year, whatever you want. But another thing I wanted to show you that you could categorize is you could do it by things that are tagged. So let's say throughout the year you've been tagging one of the children, okay? At the end, when you're all done, you could go in and you could say only tagged entries, and you could write in that tag again. This is why you would tag. So let's say Jaya. I would want to have a whole book of Jaya. I could go in and it would only capture from the whole year all those things that had that tag. And then I could create the PDF and have that for her, send it to her. Isn't that awesome? So something, I mean, be thinking of the things that you could be doing. This doesn't have to just be your personal history. You could actually be creating a personal history for your children so they can remember. When Tally goes and does her performances, I could tag it, Tally's performance. And at the end, I could have pictures and my thoughts of her all through the year and all of her performances. Okay? So that is one reason right there that I love this app, because of the functionality that you can do. You can also go down and say what style you want. What if you want a big, large font size. The font. Some people are very, they like to have different fonts. There's an advanced right here that, and I won't go into all of this, but I go on day1.com and see all the things that you can do. You can embed media. You can do sound effects. You can do statistics, add music. I mean, there are a lot of things that you can do on this, and the desktop one has even more. And that one is $9.99. You get that in the Mac App Store for your desktop, and that one is very cool too. If you ever have any questions, again, remember, you're never stuck. There's always support. So, you tap support, and it takes you to their site, and then you can go all the little FAQs and everything. You'll be able to help, and that's in your settings. Okay, so isn't that amazing? All those different things that you could be doing. Can you imagine? I don't know, I look back and I think, I wish I had this when my kids were little. Some of the funny things that they do. And I'd always say, oh, write that down because it's so funny. And then I forget to. Or I did and it's on a scrap of piece of paper somewhere and I don't have it. But now, these tools that we have are amazing. So, doesn't mean that we lost that time. You can go forward and you can still do it with your kids, your grandkids. Even if it's just you at home, do it with you. So that you'll be able to remember it because it's your personal history. Okay, did I answer your question on tags? That's why we would tag, so that we could.
It just does it when I get tagged and.
Okay, I will do one right now and I'll show you. So same thing what I did before. I'll take a picture of you. We'll do this side of the family. Yeah, it is. It's this side of the family. Here we go. I'm gonna take a photo of you guys. Yay! Sorry, Amy, you're not in there, or Tiff, you weren't in there. Okay, I'm gonna use the photo. Okay, so down here is where my photo is. Right here, if I want a location or something, this is where I would, this actually has weather, this one is where you are, this is the time of day it is, and this is where the tag is. So I would tap my tag right there, and I would say 12 week class. That would be my tag, and then I would go back to done. If I wanted to go in and edit it and now add some more things about how awesome you guys are, this is where I would type it. Okay, so this little tag right here is what you would want to touch.
And it would still, what you type is still in that tag thing.
And this is, so that little tag right there, so it is a little bit different than the hashtag because it doesn't recognize it as much. You have to tell it, I want to tag it this, and so the little tag right there. But that's what the tags do, is it categorizes, and then you're able to pull from those tags to create the books or the entries or whatever you want to do with PDF.
Can you go back later and tag things if you want?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is what, after I realized that, I went, oh, I'm not doing this efficiently. So see, all the things that I've learned, I'm teaching you now so you don't have to do that. Okay. So that is day one in a nutshell. And that, to me, has been, I've only been doing it for a couple months. Even though I did it last year, every night at 6:45 I would go on, I'm like, oh, I just can't do this. But then I started realizing, you know how the teacher always learns more than the student? And I want to share this with you. This happened yesterday that I thought was really, really interesting. As I was preparing, and don't get me wrong, this was just a split second, I got this feeling. I was really busy yesterday, and I got this feeling. I just felt overwhelmed with this class. For just a split second, okay? Just as fast as I got that feeling, I got this overwhelming feeling of love, peace, and joy. And Heavenly Father, I just felt His love for you, and I got my own little testimony of saying, that we all need this, and that he is aware of you. So just so you know, I got that, and I was very thankful for it. Sister Nacken is very inspired, and I was really thankful for that. So I don't even know why I just said that, but that came to me, and I just want you all to know that I felt Heavenly Father's love for you yesterday. And I love you too, and it's not overwhelming. I really think that was just Satan trying to make me go, why, you know how sometimes, why am I doing this? Okay, I stopped it, and I'm thankful for the good angel on the shoulder. Look at that little bad angel. Okay, so that is what we have for personal history, okay? Let me make sure.
So Colette is kind of the same thing, but not as in.
Exactly. It's not as in-depth, and like I was saying, I like it, and I have it, but it's not, for me, day one is my best fit. But Collect might be your best fit, so I don't know. And the other ones that you found, day one journal, that might be a best fit too. So I just wanted to let you know what's out there, and then just start playing with it to see what will fit for you. Okay. So now we are going to go into family tree gatherings. Okay, so you've got your personal history going here, and now we're going to kind of switch on over to family history / family gatherings. Okay. Now this, when I read this kind of gave me a pit in my stomach. It only takes 3 generations to lose a piece of oral family history. It must be purposefully and accurately repeated over and over again through the generations to be preserved. Doesn't that make you just kind of go, oh no, it only takes 3 generations. And I love this. Okay, Aaron Holt is a famous genealogist. And when he said, I read this on, I think it was Roots Tech maybe. I don't know, it was a family history site. So the thing that popped out to me on this was, it must be purposefully and accurately repeated over and over. Now, you know that when you're with families, in family gathering settings and stuff, sometimes naturally story time will occur, but sometimes it doesn't. And like with just this past weekend when I was with my family, had I not purposefully asked my dad, tell me a story or something, and he went and got that paper out for me, that would have never happened. Family tree gatherings are the same thing. When you have a gathering or a reunion, and it doesn't have to be at a reunion, I'm learning. President McGinn said that he, for family home evenings, they gather, help me, I think this is what he said, they gather and do family history things, and they call it a family history gathering, or family tree gathering, right? And so for family home evening, it doesn't have to be every single week, but when you do it, make it purposeful. Gather with purpose. I love that. When I read that, I thought, when we want to keep these stories alive, we've got to have a purpose. And that is something that there might just be one person in the family that has that purpose. And if you're feeling that that's what you should be doing, then you need to be the one that has the purpose. If there's somebody else, or maybe a few of you, I think my siblings are starting to get into this, and I'm not the only one that every time we get together, let's have a story from Dad, and now there are more people that are doing it. And so hopefully it will spill out, and more people will want to gather with purpose. But remember that, gather with purpose. I love that, because sometimes naturally it just doesn't happen. Now, in these family tree gatherings, remember that the objective of a family tree gathering is to get to the point where, does that make sense? Is to get to the point where we can determine, what ordinances still need to be done and make assignments for the temple work. So it depends on how your family is and everything. So, I know that I've got a friend, she's the only member of her family. So obviously, if she was getting together at a family reunion or a family tree gathering, she would have her own objective, but still that objective is in mind. That really, ultimately, we do want to find those family history, those family ancestors' names in our family history that are needing their ordinance work done. So, let's talk about ideas for using technology at family gatherings. Okay. This is fun stuff. Okay. Number 1, gather for a special family home evening. To scan and take pictures of photos Then you can date and name each photo and upload online to Family Search. That could be, seriously, you could do 1 photo, 2 photos, whatever you've got. It doesn't have to be this huge project that seems overwhelming and the kids start getting bored. It can be something short, sweet, and fun. That's it. The tip is this can be done virtually, like how I shared with my family last week when we had our little virtual anniversary party. I get to come back and tell you what happened. It was one of the neatest days. It was the day that I traveled, and I was able to sit in the airport and watch as my cousins were adding different things on Family Search and different stories I had never even heard of about my grandma and grandpa, who I thought I knew so well. And it was at the very end of the day, my cousin emailed everybody on that thread that we had going, and she just said, "Thanks so much. This has been such a tender day where I really have felt the spirit of Elijah." And it was exciting because this cousin before had never gotten into it, and now I've seen her throughout the week, and she's like on fire. It's so exciting. So now again, not the only one in my family that's saying, "Come on, guys, let's do this," but it really was something that we could do virtually. And all we did, we kind of did this. We just gathered a picture, a photo, a date and a name of it, and maybe we did memories with it as well. So be thinking of family home evenings. If you have Sunday dinner together, bring out your photo book or bring out grandma's, I can't remember what they called it back then. It was, what was it? It's like
Book of Remembrance. Book of Remembrance.
Yes, Book of Remembrance. Thank you. My mom has her Book of Remembrance, and that has become a treasure. But share that when you're together. And again, it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out thing. Okay, find a story to go with an ancestor's photo. Share online via Instagram or Facebook. And again, reminding you to create a hashtag, a specific hashtag for family. This is something that my aunt came up with that I loved. She said, I would love to have everybody have different photos and of like maybe one family. You could categorize it, maybe say one family, and this is the mom, the dad, the brother, the sister, and everybody has a photo, and then you kind of have to come up with the story, find a story, a memory or something, a little bit of kind of like Clue or something like that, where you have this person that you're looking at, and it's your responsibility to find out more information and then share that with the family. So that could be a family tree gathering as well. Again, online or together, however you want to do it, and short and sweet. Doesn't have to be drawn out. Okay, bring cherished possessions of grandparents or parents. Tell stories and let our young ones learn about family memories. Take pictures and upload to Family Search. That's the tip. Now again, have your grandkids, have your kids do that. They can take the picture of the something that, I'm thinking of my mother-in-law, something that she would have, I know you've got lots of trinkets and things like that mean things to you. For instance, she's got this gorgeous china cabinet, and there are lots of different pieces in there that when we go for Thanksgiving or we use it and we love it, but there's a story behind it. And what if she brought that to a family home evening or to a family gathering and said, look, and then told a little story about it, and the kids took a picture and we all remembered that cherished possession. Things like that, just getting ideas in your mind of the things that you can do. Okay, read stories out of ancestors' journals. This can unite families and teach principles in a fun way. And then, a little tip is you can make copies and add to a binder for each family. And this is kind of what I've been doing with this book right here. Whenever I get something from either my mom, my dad, or my mother-in-law, or whatever, I've been able to add little things in it here and there. This is something that my mother-in-law, Karma, wrote a story that I love about just the memories. Are they both?
Sheila.
They both are?
Sheila
Okay.
wrote it.
Because I know that this one had your name on it. So Sheila wrote this, and this is about her dad, who is my kid's great-grandpa, and her mom, and these were little things. What cracks me up is when I read it, I'm like, oh, that's where Jaya gets that. It's really fun because the different characteristics that I'm reading about my grandpa-in-law, does that make sense? That's kind of sounds funny, but he's a part of me, and she's a part of me, and I love that. And so these were just little stories that they wrote, and so I put them in here. This one I cherish. I'm going to cry. handwritten note that my mother-in-law wrote when her kids were, John was 13, Jeff was 11. Amy, how old were you? 7. I hope you don't mind me sharing this. This was her testimony to her kids at that young age about how she felt about the gospel. They had lost her son, Breck, when he was 13 months old, and she shared how that was the hardest thing that had happened at that point in her life. The thing that she didn't know is that there would be way harder things. The daughter, Michelle, would pass away at 20. She didn't know that at the time. Other things with my husband happened. She didn't know what would happen at the time. And it is so sweet to read. And the way she writes it is to her children when they're her age. And at the time she says, I think it says, were you 34? I think. Isn't that crazy? You had that many kids at 34. But she said, when you read this, I hope you'll be married. I hope it's absolutely beautiful, and it's handwritten, and I love it. She made copies for us, and it's cherished to me. And I haven't shared it with my kids yet. I think that as we read it, because she talks about marriage, and she talks about just kind of basically now where we are. It's interesting because this letter that she wrote so many years ago is now to us in where we are. And I didn't know her at the time, but she was writing to me too, and I'm very thankful for it. And then other little things were just putting little stories and stuff in a notebook and just kind of gathering it. So when you start telling stories or recording them, keep them in a binder so that you have them all together. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be a Shutterfly book or something like that, but it can be something where everything is gathered. And I tell you, I read these things at certain times where I just really needed that boost. And I believe that it is our ancestors on the other side just knowing what we need, and they just help us. So if we don't have the stories, how will we read them, right? So gather those together. Make copies, put them in binders for other family members as well. So let's talk about family reunions. Family reunion season is coming up, right? Summer is usually when you have family reunions. And let's talk about different ideas that you can do for family reunions. There's so much you can do with technology. It blows me away. So if you are on the cusp of a family reunion, or if you suddenly think, I think we'll do one this year because it sounds so much fun, then let's look at these ideas, because I love some of these things that you can do. Okay, create books or blogs. Now this is something that you could do before the family history. The family reunion. My mom took memories from sorry, that sounded like mine. I was like, I don't think I have to answer. This is just kind of a small book that she got done at Shutterfly. And this is something that she did right before our family reunion, specifically for each family, and has just memories with she and my dad. In fact, you guys are in here. Isn't that fun? She has a picture. When my mom and dad served, he was over the area presidency of the West Indies, and my in-laws, or not West Indies, what was it called at that time?
It's the West Indies.
It was? Well, they were missionaries, so my kids had both grandparents at the same time in the same place on a mission. So she captured that for us. We weren't there. Isn't that fun? And so this whole book was just something that she gave to us at our family reunion as a little gift that had memories of us with just them. It was really neat. But you could do that before the family reunion and give them as gifts, or you could be with that in mind that you wanted to create a book. You could be taking pictures, you could be sharing stories, and you could create a book of the family reunion afterwards,
And
or
you can
a
do
blog.
this on the app.
You could do that on the app, exactly. You could do that on day one. If you don't want to do anything fancy, that is the way to do it. You would have a great book. You could also share it as an ebook or the PDF that we talked about. Or blogs. If you have a blog that is a family blog, you could start sharing information and stuff on that blog where everybody is together. Everyone could be adding different photos and memories and things like that. And then you can also publish your blogs. Do you know that? Again, blurb is another one. Yes, it's called Blurb. Isn't that a funny one? And the way they say is it slurps from your blog. So all these funny words. But that's something you can do as well. So I just want you to keep these things in mind, okay? Next one. Okay, girls, you're on. Okay, make a poster to honor living relatives. Okay. So this is, I'm so glad they're here because I knew they couldn't do this. Now this is just a poster, and it's not honoring a living person, it's just me. So I mean, I guess it's me, but we're not going to honor me. But I wanted to show you what this was. How fun, and all these little photos are just things that were on my Instagram. And this was printed at Persnickety Prints. We talked about that last week. And all I did was, it was one hashtag that I wanted to use, and now I can't even remember what hashtag it was. I don't know, because we've got a Mormon, we've got our family reunion. I can't remember what it was. But basically, I'll use the word again, slurp. It slurps all of those hashtags, and then they can make a big poster out of it. So if you had one person that you wanted to honor, you could get all these photos from that person, put it on a poster, and you could have that at your family reunion. Have one of Grandma and Grandpa or Aunt. Thank you, girls. You're awesome. My Vannas, look at you. You're so great. Did you do this? Did you? So just be thinking of fun things that you could do. Wouldn't that be awesome to have something that just, I mean, I think all the kids would be wanting to look at it, and it would just be something that, and then afterwards you could frame. I keep thinking that I want to frame this, but I haven't framed it. That's why it's so curly. You can frame it. You can give it to the person who you're honoring, things like that. So there are different things that you can do with technology. Keep that in mind. Okay, create a T-shirt for all to wear. You can do that on Rana Designs. If it's a one color, and in fact on here I give you some tips and stuff that I have found. Where is it? If you just have one color T-shirt, you can easily do that in the app. Whenever you have more color T-shirts, more color designs, you have to do it in different layers, and that gets a little bit more technical. The people, whoever you screen print with, they'll be able to tell you what you need to do. And I do know people that have done, like, one of my friends in California used the app to create their camp T-shirts, and it was 3 different colors, and she totally did it in the app, and it worked. So you can actually do custom things and send it to a printer or a screen printer. And I do give a tip in here that says you would need to find a screen printer that works with JPEGs. That's the file, because that's the kind of file that the Rana Designs app generates. Okay, but it can be done. Isn't that exciting? So you can create it and then just have all this cool stuff on T-shirts. So you could do that. Then you also, in the app as well, you could create programs, schedules, and menus and print those out. So again, you could use the same design and you could just put it different places. But I don't know about you, but when we have our family reunion, we have, like, one family's in charge of one day for the different meals, and, we have all these things, and my mom puts up the schedule, and everyone has it, and that's kind of how, so you guys might look at this and be like, program, schedule, menu. You might not do that, but our family does, and I'm the one that's designing right now, so it's kind of on my mind. This is another fun one that you can do while you're there, is recreate games that your ancestors used to play. You know how, like, you play the Pioneer games, like the rolling the stick and everything. I don't think, well, you might have that older people in your family. But another one that we are going to do this year is a card game that has the kind of like for the little kids. We've got some 3-year-olds and things like that. Print out the same picture of the same ancestor with information and use it like a memory game and have them doing that while the older kids are doing other games and things like that. So all that can be done on your phone, like we showed you before, taking a picture out of a book or out of a frame or whatever, and then printing it, putting it on a card and having a memory attached to it, or I don't know, something like that you could do quick, easy, fun. Okay, collect recipes and create recipe book with photos, memories, and recipes, and then print it. This is something that we did 6 years ago, I think. We have our family reunion every 2 years. So I think it was 6 years ago. And we did this, I'm sad to say that this company that did this recipe book is now out of business. And I'm so sad because this is plastic, the front and back is plastic, and each page is coated. So it's a recipe book that when I've spilled things on, I can just wipe it off and it's great. I did find a couple other recipe book printers, and I've got their names on, let's see, it's called Shutterfly. It would just be a regular book, so it's not like a real one of these. But something that piqued my interest was createmycookbook.com. And that looked like they had, I love having recipe books with the spiral. So that's something that, just so you know, it's out there, it's all in there. But this is something that we did where we got recipes from my grandma, and everybody shared what version of the recipe they had, because we found out there are lots of different versions floating out there. And we had to put the name, so if it didn't work out, we could blame that person. Just kidding. And then we have like little memories off to the side and stuff that, like this one is, and this is not really a recipe, but Granny's shredded wheat breakfast. Okay, Carol, who's my mom, her oldest, says, when I was growing up, there was no brown sugar in this recipe. Maybe my children would have liked it if it had been missing, if it had that missing ingredient. So in her recipe, her sister-in-law's recipe, it had brown sugar. So my mom was saying, yeah, that wasn't the original recipe, but it was just kind of funny that we had that little thing here. Anyway, come to find out, after we put all the recipes together, the dessert section is huge. She was very good at desserts. We had a lot of desserts. So that's another idea that you could do. You could do recipe cards. You could do, if you want to do a whole book, and everybody could add little things that they remember about that recipe. Okay, and create a video, which we will be learning, the very last week, we'll be learning about creating a video or a slideshow with stories to share, and you can add music too. We did this, I didn't bring it. At our family reunion last time, we did a little highlight on my grandma and grandpa. I made a book, my mom did a little slideshow, and the whole theme was side by side. Do you remember that old song? Mm-hmm. I'm not a singer, so how's it go?
We got a barrel of money.
Yes. Through the whole thing of all these little slideshows, all these little pictures, we had that song going to it, and then we had people talking about memories and things like that. It was really awesome. You can do that all on your phone these days. So easy. Okay, with devices, have the youngers, the littles, interview the first generation family members with the Memories app. Remember the Family Tree Memories app that we were talking about? So that's something you could do. Easy, fun activity. Anyone can do it. All ages can do it. Okay, so as we gather together as families in person and online, we can share stories of faith, past, present, and future. We are engaged in His work, and He is hastening it. It is one work. I want you to think of that right here, because as I was preparing this lesson, I'm really thankful for the little whisperings of the Spirit that I get as I'm preparing these, because this really popped out at me. You know how sometimes when you start hearing hastening of the work and the missionary work, and you've got to be involved in missionary work, you've got to be involved in family history work, you've got to be involved in temple work, take your names to the temple. It starts to feel a little bit overwhelming, doesn't it? And you think, how can I do it all? But when I read this, I thought, duh, we're making it way harder than it needs to be. It is one work. Missionary work, temple work, family history work. The Lord has inspired technologies and tools that enable us to benefit from the oneness of missionary work, temple work, and family history work, more than at any previous time in this dispensation. And it is no coincidence that these innovations have come forth at precisely the time they are so needed to advance one great work, a labor of love intended to change and turn and purify the hearts of honest seekers of truth. Now this part, this is Elder Bednar that said this. This part, I want this to sink into you, because I just got so excited. I think I jumped up and down in my office. I was so excited because it finally hit me that we don't have to be overwhelmed, and we don't have to feel like we have to have our hands dabbling in every single little thing. It's one work. Listen to this. I love this. The artificial boundary line we so often place between missionary work, temple work, and family history work is being erased. This is one great work of salvation. So, all these ideas and all these things talking about family history work and personal history and taking names to the temple and missionary work, Don't let it overwhelm you. That is Satan making you feel like it's impossible and there's no way you can do it. There is a way that we can do it. We just have to be prayerful to know what we need to be focusing on. It is one work, it is Heavenly Father's work, and it's all about families. And when we start doing this with, like it said, just with our hearts in mind, and those in our family with their hearts in mind, our hearts will turn, our hearts will change, and they will be purified. And I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, so next week, my friends, this is the one where we talk about being smart about technology. We're going to learn the ins and outs of social media that our children, teens, young adults are involved in. And we're going to talk about ideas on parental controls in a kind and loving way. Because I know sometimes when teens think that you're controlling them or something, there starts to be contention. We don't want that. And then we're going to talk about, and this is kind of, I didn't really know where to stick this into the whole thing, but I want to teach you about AirDrop and Dropbox and different ways to share things. They're really awesome. And so I stuck it in here because it made the most sense, but it's a little bit weird. So be patient with me next week. But it will be, again, this is just, even though it's advanced, do you feel like you are, it's advanced, but look, you're learning new things, right? Did you come back with one, or leave today with one idea? If you did, then that's all you need to focus on. You don't need to get overwhelmed. That's not how it works, okay? All right, thank you so much.